find the time because I'm working a day job and all of this stuff. I felt myself getting really depressed and really sad because I wasn't being fulfilled as a creative. So I knew that there was some way to do it because I saw other people doing it. But as a creative and an introvert and somebody with limited spoons, I wanted to find out what was going to be best for me because my relationships were suffering. There was just all kinds of things that were wrong. I was at a real low. If I couldn't feel like a writer, or if I couldn't be a writer, I didn't know that all the rest of it, was worth it. So I decided to check out some project management, and I'm also a great big fan of finding ways to get things done for free. As a little baby author, I didn't want to burden my little baby author business with a huge bill. Like, there are so many project management tools and interfaces out there, and they, you can do them for $10 a month or $15 a month, or if you have all these team members, you can pay for those too. And that wasn't right for me either, because I didn't want this to be a big bill or a burden on any other budgets that I had going on. So, project management is huge. I started whittling it down. When I got into the courses and saw everything they had to offer, guess what? I hit a low again, and that's when I started just whittling through it all to find out what was going to be best for me as a writer. I spent months on the classes, got my certificate, and then I wanted to, just really break it down. So about me, I am a publisher. I am a conference director. I'm a career counselor, and I'm a mom, I'm a grandma, I'm a personal assistant to a New York Times bestselling author, and I'm also an author. I'm also a writer who has to be able to, continue to write my books. So this really did work, and I didn't get a divorce. Everything worked out well. Like, I still have time for family and friends and to be fulfilled as a human as well. And it doesn't, this helps so that my jobs do not define who I am, and that was really important to me. So the objective for this workshop, hopefully you can follow along with this and take away the things that will help you and leave behind, the things that you just don't feel are relevant to where you are in your career. Also, whenever we're going through this, it helps if you can start making your lists. You'll be able to have these slides at home, like you can download them from Sched. You should do that because there are cues in there for when you start making different lists and making different calendars and looking for different tools. So we're not going to spend all the time making our lists today, but when you hear a cue, you'll know that it's in the slides and you can go back. Okay, so what I'm getting ready to start talking about is agile project management. Back in the day, project management was so completely cut and dried, and it was all very linear, and you had to do everything just so. And then as well as I do, that doesn't work with creatives, right? We have so many different things going on, and we have so many thoughts. Our thought processes are different than people who are just strictly managing a project as their job. This is something where we have to fit in our writing time at different odd times. Like, we write on our lunch breaks, things like that. That's why this is set up so it's going to help you. So the definitions for agile project management are here on the slide. You'll be able to take that home. There's an agile umbrella. These are tools and terms that I'm getting ready to go over with you. Scrum is one of the terms. So, like, I say Scrum and everybody's like, ew. But actually Scrum is a beautiful thing, because all Scrum is a place where you can manage work in sprints, and your teams can see the work in sprints, and so you are a Scrum master. So don't say ooh too fast, because you're going to be a Scrum master. And the other one is Kanban. Kanban is a really visual tool, and I'm going to show you my favorite free one, right? But it's a board where you break out all the things that need to happen, and you can slide them between lists and things like that. Most of us as creators, as creatives, we're very visual, and so that really helped me. And so I'm excited to show you what I have to offer for that to you. All right, so there are 5 main sections to this talk, and I'm really hoping that we can get through to all of them. The first one is we're going to define the scope of everything that you have going on when you're awake, okay? Everything that you have going on. The second thing is we're going to define the work that you have to do to reach your goals. Then we are going to break it down. I mean, we're going to make lists, we're going to fit things in, and we're going to find out how best you can accomplish all those things. And we're going to make it fit in your calendar when you're awake. And then we're going to find a way that you can maintain that flow. Okay, so it's called a work breakdown system, and it's going to be something that you're going to love and really live there. So the first one that we have here is scope. Now, any project, when you get started with any project or program, if you're going to manage it, the first thing that you want to do is define the scope of what you're trying to get done, okay? And that really takes a lot of soul searching. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, some of this is really touchy-feely. We're creatives, we're not the type of people who jump in and see things just really, like clockwork. Most times we will see things, as they need to happen in our minds, but we have a lot of things pushing on our emotional on our ability to create, right? A lot of it is like day job, family, household chores, just even the littlest things, taking the dog to the vet. I mean, it can really impact what we can do as creatives. So there are 6 things that we're going to concentrate on. And when you make your own lists, you can take out some of these bullet points, and you can add other bullet points that are really important for you to get done with your time, right? So the first one, we need to talk about self-care. And the reason that self-care is the first one that I want to talk about is because if you aren't healthy as a human, you're not going to be able to do things to the best of your ability for your family and all these other the things that fall below, right? If you're not healthy mentally, if your body is struggling, if you're not eating right, if your emotional situation isn't healthy, then you're not going to be able to succeed, or you're going to struggle anyway, with these other things. So the first thing that you really need to consider is taking care of your self-care. So anyway, when you're doing your self-care, you need to go ahead and brainstorm your list. For me, it's yoga, it's meditation, it's making sure I get in to see different healthcare professionals, it's counseling, it's talking with friends, it's talking with peers, things like that. Those are my brand of self-care. And then there's also taking vitamins and making sure you eat right, planning your meals and that kind of thing. But this is something that actually takes time, and it's something that you should list out so that it doesn't surprise you during your work week and it doesn't cut into your creative time. Okay, next up, we have family, right? So number 2 on your list, family, you can brainstorm this. Start writing down everybody who you want to give your time to, right? Kids, spouse, maybe you have found family. Maybe you have, people that are just really great friends. You have your best friend, you consider her your sister, and every week you want to spend an hour or 2 on Friday with this person, get together to, just touch base, and it's really good that's something that feeds your soul, right? Well, that's really important to you, so you want to be sure and list that as well. But it's also like the people you live with, if you're married or you have a partner or something like that, there is a time commitment there. And a lot of us, when we go into looking at the projects that we want to complete during a day or a week or a month, or like we want to put 4 books out during a year, sometimes we forget to add in the time that we need to spend with our family and our friends and the other humans that we interact with. Very important stuff. Okay, the third one, household management. It ranges from taking out the darn trash to making grocery lists to going to the grocery store to taking the dog to the vet to getting the kids to school. You know what I mean? Your household, everything that you do during the week or even the weekends, you need to list it. You need to write it down. And the reason that you're writing all this down, by the way, is it's kind of like brain mapping. I don't know if anybody out there has ever done any brain mapping, but this way the little things don't fall through the cracks, and you don't end up creating this big, plan and workflow and everything, and you think it's beautiful, and you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, where is time with Bob? I forgot to add time with Bob. So be sure and make your list and make them complete and give yourself some time, sleep on it, go back, look at the list again and see what you forgot. Okay, I have to do that all the time. Okay, the next one, day job. How many of you work a day job? Okay, yeah. How many of you might work 2 day jobs, right? How many of you want to also be a writer, right? Okay, so you get the drift there. So day jobs take up so many of your spoons. They take up so many of your budgets, right? They take up your time budget. They work in tandem with your, they work in tandem with your financial budget. They're dependent, right? Your time budget and your financial budget. So you need to figure out what your commitment is there. Like, how much of that time do you need to give away so that you can get the resources that you need to be creative, right? How do you pay your rent? That sort of thing. You guys know about all your financial obligations. How do you fulfill that? Well, day jobs, that's how you do it. So be sure and make a list of all the time that you give to other people for resources. If you have a commute, you need to list that. You can't just go in and look and say, well, I work 8 hours a day, so I'm going to block that off on my calendar. No, there's a commute. What do you do on your way home from your commute? Do you use the commute time to listen to an audiobook on creative writing? Just really look at that. Break it down on where that time actually goes. If you work from home, yay, but you still get ready, and you get to your desk and you have to log in and you have to, make sure to feed the cat before you do that. So just be sure and write down everything that you have going on. Okay, number 5, your creative model. So this is where we're going to start getting into the nuts and the bolts here, okay? So, you could be a traditionally published author. If that is your dream, that's what you're going to go for. You could be a self-published author, like so many of us are just indies, right? We do all of our stuff. We take on the world with our own projects. Or you could be a hybrid, like I'm a hybrid author, right? I have my own stuff out, my own self-publishing world out there, and then I also have tribe deals. So, that creates more work, but that's what I wanted. I wanted to be involved in both of those. So, one reason was I am a control freak, and I wanted to know all of the nuts and bolts about how everything worked in the publishing world. So I wrote a book and I indie published that sucker because I want to know what's going on, behind the scenes with Amazon and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I got like knee deep in all of the whole entire things. So we're going to break that down a little bit with in a couple slides, but keeping in mind, what is your publishing model? What are you wanting to do? Okay, so number 6 is giving back. Don't ever forget this. A lot of people, they're just like, well, I'm not there yet and stuff, but the very soonest you can start giving back to the community, the sooner you're going to feel, you're just going to be more fulfilled as a creative. So for me, I wanted to write children's books to help kids with anti-bullying because bullying has always been a major part of my life, right? So I got to a certain point in my career where I felt like I had the spoons and the time and the budgets to actually create kids' books to help with bullying. And so that's how I was giving back, right? I haven't really made a whole bunch of money off my kids' books, but I get to go to schools. And if I leave a school and I meet one kid, who like takes the book home, and then I hear from their adult, and their adult is like, wow, they're talking to me now. That's it. That's exactly what I was looking for. So please be sure, even if you're just getting started with your project management, please be sure to have a little room to give back. And you don't have to write a kid's book to give back. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, volunteering at a conference like 20Books or Superstars or something like that, that's giving back, and that makes you feel fulfilled, right? Because you're helping other authors. You could even, donate your time at the Humane Society. I do that too. I have a thing for animals, but, just look for a way that you can give back. You're going to feel so much better. And it is just as important as your day job and stuff like that to make you feel good on the inside. So try to always have a giving back section. Okay, so Now we're moving into, we've defined the scope. What we just did with those 6 bullet points, we defined the scope of where your time, energy, and all those budgets go, right? When you get home, you're going to look through these slides, you're going to make up all your lists, you're going to really brain map it out, you're going to put everything down on paper, and you're going to look at it and you're going to go, holy biscuits, what am I going to do with all this? So we are going to define the creative work that it's going to take for you to be able to reach the goals that you really want to do. Okay, so I've got 3 bullet points on here. Whenever you're creating something, you have pre-production, you have production, and then you have release, right, afterward, which we'll call publishing, so getting it out there. Those are the 3 things that we are going to work on, and we touched just a couple minutes ago on how are you going to do that. Are you going to be a self-publisher? Are you looking for a trad deal, or are you going to do both? You're going to go hybrid, so keep that in mind as we move forward here. All right, your publishing plan. So my publishing plan is to continue to be hybrid, right? So be clear to yourself. Just look at this statement right here. Be really clear. Understand when you make the decision on how you want to publish, be clear on what demands that's going to make of you, right? So allow yourself to grow with that idea, and most importantly, allow yourself to be agile with yourself, okay? Allow your schedule to be agile. Allow yourself to be able to adjust, okay? If you go about your project management and you think, oh my gosh, I have to do this all the time just like this, you're wrong. You're really cheating yourself. Allow yourself a little bit of fudge time, okay? Be agile with your schedule. Okay, so the must-haves. So for any project, right, whether you're an indie or you're trad or whatever, we're going to talk about being an indie right here, because these are the things that I learned when I wanted to start publishing books for myself. These are the things that I had to spend my budgets on. Okay, so the must-haves. Number 1, any of these models have to have these items. So trad, hybrid, indie, or self. Okay, when are you going to write your books? When is your creative time going to happen? So write that down. Editing, most of us don't self-edit. Like, I am horrible at self-editing. I have an editor. I have 2 editors. Okay, so when is your stuff going to go to editing? We have to worry about promoting. When are we going to do that? Promoting doesn't start when your book is released. Promoting starts at the concept of the book, right? So when are you going to do that? Bookkeeping, how are you going to handle all of that stuff? Communications, what is your chosen way of communicating with your teams and your stakeholders going to be? Things like this are things that we're going to really get into here in a couple slides. Promotions, how are you going to promote your work? Are you going to do like a whole bunch of ad spend? What's your budget there? What's your time budget for doing your promotions during your day, your work day? Pre-production, are you going to send your book out for reviews to places like Publishers Weekly and all of that? Or are you an Amazon author and you want those reviews because you want them to stack up so that when readers look your stuff up, they'll see, 4,000 5-star reviews? That's really important. So you need to start planning that stuff now. Production, how are you going to get your production done? Are you going to use Vellum? Do you have a production manager who whips up your book files for you? Need to look at that. And then advertising, like I kind of hit on this a minute ago when I was talking about promotion, but advertising. What's your ad budget going to look like? Are you going to do it yourself? Are you going to have, some ad meister come in and do all your ads for you? So start planning, make your lists, and figure out exactly what you're going to want to do with that. Okay, so we just went over this big ginormous list, right? Those are really good bullet points when you're going to self-publish a book. Those are the things you need to keep in mind. There are a few more you're going to add and you're going to subtract from that list, I guarantee you. So if you want to be trad, on top of the list that we were just looking at, this list, on top of this, you need to add, whoops, I think I went too far. This one. So we have that big list that we just looked at. Trad, you need to add, how are you going to pitch your book? when are you going to query your book, and when are you going to submit your book. If you're going to go hybrid, you're going to do all this for yourself, right? You need to worry about the whole indie list, the whole self-publishing list, and you need to look at the trad list. So the reason that I'm bringing this up, you're like, oh my gosh, this is really obvious. But when you start building out your calendars and looking at time management, you forget these things. I guarantee that you forget. When am I going to query agents? When am I going to query publishers? Things like that. You have to keep it in mind, or else it's not going to end up on your calendar and it's not going to get done. Okay, so the ABCs of publishing a book for an indie. There's a lot of information on this card. Please don't try to get through it all right now. But when you get home and you're looking at these slides, the reason that I say this in the ABC kind of thing is I went through the last time I did a book, and these are the things that I did, right? So pre-production, right? You're going to make a book deck. Your book deck, is just like the one sheet for this one particular project, has all the fonts that you used, the colors that you used, the cover designer is on there, the ISBNs are on there. Make yourself a nice book deck. And that right there, by the way, in project management terms, you've created your first asset. Okay, that book deck, that's an asset. And what it is a collection on one sheet of paper of all the information that you gathered and the research you did to create that project. The blurb is on there, the book description is on there, the date you published it is on there, all the ways you published it on there are on there, your audiobook narrator, it's all on there. Okay, so that is an asset. Okay, we'll talk about asset storage here in just a little while, but that's a pretty good definition of an asset. Another definition of an asset in project management is a book cover, art that you have purchased. You know what I mean? That's an asset. Okay, so next, beta readers. We all usually use beta readers. When are you going to engage your beta readers? They are stakeholders. Next, street teams. If you're going to have street teams, like in a local town, if you're publishing your book and you engage somebody in your hometown and you're like, oh my gosh, this author, you tell them, author was born here, the author is publishing a book. That street team locally is going to go to the bookstores, around for you to get a flyer out or something like that, and maybe help you set up a book signing. So that's what street teams are all about. You start with that early. That's why it's in pre-production. And then reviewers, we kind of touched on that a minute ago, but depending on your publishing model, are you going to engage editorial reviewers like Locus and Booklist and Kirkus and all of those? Advanced readers, those are a big thing. Where are you going to put your eARC link? Are you going to get with BookFunnel and upload it up there so that you have a nice little link to send out to advanced readers? Things are like this, all happen in pre-production. Okay, and I know this is a lot. I know you're getting a little bit blurry-eyed with the things, but when you manage a project, each one of these little bullet points is really important because it goes in one of the budgets or two of the budgets, right? Okay, so next we have the Library of Congress. Are you going to go ahead and try to get like a MARC record and an LCCN, a Library of Congress control number? Are you going to go that route for this book? And then bookstores, you can create the one sheet and engage bookstores early pre-release. So that's why that's all part of pre-production. Production, this is the nuts and bolts, like getting your cover made, getting the editing done. This happens after you have a completed manuscript, of course. And also, a lot of us might be publishers at heart going to publish other authors. So this is really important for that too, right? You're going to be a small press. You need to go ahead and keep all these things in mind too. So going down that list, we've got editing, formatting, the layout of the book, asset creation. We just talked about, like, we've already created our first asset, that one sheet with all the information about the font, the colors and everything. And then we've got the assets as you're creating them. We've got your covers, the print book files, ebook files, and of course audio files, however you're going to get that done. So those are your assets. And then number C is publishing. So are you going to do all of this uploading yourself, or are you going to get a distribution manager, right? At one of my jobs, I work with a distribution manager because we are a new model press. There's no way I have time or spoons to get all those uploaded. So we have a distribution manager. So you need to make those decisions. Are you going to get one of those to help you out? How big is your press going to be? You know, if you're just going to write like maybe 4 or 5 books a year as an indie, you might be able to do all of this all by yourself, you know, but depending on how big your stuff is going to get, these are things that you want to consider. And then listing maintenance, just because you get it all uploaded to all the places where you want your book, you still have to maintain that, you know, even with just Amazon and KDP, that stuff is changing all the time, right? They just put all the ways that they did categories in a cup and shook it up and then shook it out on a table and said, okay, you go in there and you redo all of your stuff, right? So that takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of spoons. Okay, so talking about distribution. Distribution actually begins at the concept of a book because you have in your mind the market for this book, right? Who wants this book? Where is this book going to do best and survive the best? And who is going to benefit the best from this book? Okay, so you're already thinking distribution when you get the idea to write a book. Okay, and everybody looks at me crazy when I say this, but 18 months, right? You get the idea for a book. Give yourself 18 months until you want to release it. If you're looking at your whole entire life right now, and we just did all of this brainstorming, and you wrote down all of these lists, you know what obligations you have. You know what you need to do to reach your goals. Why would you want to crowd that all together like this? Give yourself some time so you don't go bananas. Okay, that's what this talk is really all about. Okay, so on the bottom of the slide, these are things that you can think of, the bottom left, when you start the process of expanding an idea into a book, right? Engaging bookstores, just the whole deal. When you go to the Library of Congress, if you can get a Library of Congress number for your work, you need to do that probably about 3 months ahead of release date. So the Library of Congress will log your book in with its ginormous master file of, my gosh, what is it, 3 million or 3 billion or something like that books that they have in the United States. So why not have a listing there? You know, it's the biggest darn library in the world. Do yourself a favor and just backtrack. Right? Give yourself 3 months to engage the Library of Congress and get a MARC record for your book. Then there's neighborhood libraries. You're going to want to work time for that in. And schools and colleges too. Like, even if you don't write for kids, still though, a lot of books are picked up for libraries because there's always reading programs for different genres. Okay, must-haves. So any of these models, you have to worry about these things, right? And you're going to expand on this list. It's not a conclusive list, but it is a really, really good start. Things to keep in mind, right? Okay, so to go down the list, we have, and this is whether you're trad, indie, or hybrid, right? You want to do both. So any of these include your creative time you have to think of. You have to think of when you're going to do editing, when you're going to do your promotion. So the reason this is in here again is because now that you've defined the scope, you need to rethink these things and figure out which ones you're going to put in which order. Okay, so the ducks. When I first started giving this talk, my partner made a different slideshow, and he's like, you're always about getting your ducks in a row. And so he helped me make the slides, and there were ducks everywhere. It was so funny. And so the first time I did it, I saw these ducks and just started laughing. I had to explain all that. But we're going to talk about budgets right now, okay? Budgets are really important. There are 3 budgets that we're going to talk about right now, and they are very, very important to you and your ability to continue on as a creative. First one is spoons. We're going to talk a little bit about spoon theory. Super important. Second is time. You have a time budget. And you also have a financial budget. What does your financial budget let you do as a creative? You know, like that. We're going to talk about which budgets are like dependent upon one another, depending on your like what you have going on, if you have to have a job and that kind of thing. Okay. So, upside down duck. we're going to find your ducks. That's what this whole thing is, making these lists. We're finding your ducks, and we're finding out exactly what you have to offer your writing career, right? We work a couple jobs. That's so that we have the funding to come in, because we're funneling that in through household income, because we didn't want to take out a ginormous business loan to get started as a writer, right? Why would you do that to yourself? I like to do things for free, and finding the time in a budget and finding the financial part of a budget that I can pull in and use to get my creative side going, that's what I'm all about. Okay, are you guys familiar with spoon theory? Yes, good. Okay, spoon theory, do not ignore your spoons. So let me see if I can slaughter her name here. Christine Miserandino, I believe is how you say her last name. She's actually the one that coined the term, but it's something that's actually in all of our minds. Like, a really good example of you being aware of your own spoons is, what time of day are you best as a writer? When can you pound out the words? For me, it used to be 4:30 in the morning, and it's because the house was quiet, the kids were not up. I hadn't even looked at my workload for the day job, right? And so I was fresh and clean, just came out of maybe some really good sleep. Maybe I was still in a little bit of a hypnagogic mood and stuff because I hadn't had any caffeine, whatever. Used to be 4:30 in the morning. I had spoons to spare because I hadn't let anything else touch my spoons, right? We'll say I had a dozen spoons. And so then that's when I would try to write. But now that we look at it and we're being practical about it, we're adults, we have families, we have all these other things pulling on our time, right? We have 10 minutes left. So you have to look at how many spoons you have during your day and when you're going to be able to use which spoons for what. Now, Christine, when she started talking about spoon theory, she related that directly to neurodivergence and what stopped her from having 100 spoons during her day to, only having 50 or whatever. Like, different things take up different amounts of spoons, okay? Taking the dog to the vet, it might take up 3 spoons for me because, oh my gosh, I have to engage another human being. Ooh, that takes away a spoon. The dog has been really sick. Oh my gosh, I'm worrying. That takes away another spoon. And I have to get in the car and go to a place, take my dog to the vet. That actually takes a little bit of energy and, emotional. It saps you, okay? So that whole deal right there might take 5 spoons out of my day, right? So know yourself. Know what spoons you have available. Okay, so financial budget. This is why we have to work a day job, right? You have rent to pay, you have food to buy, So don't ignore the fact that your financial budget might depend, or your time budget might actually depend on your financial budget, right? Because if you have to work 8 hours a day, then ta-da, that's why they're dependent, okay? If you are one of the lucky people and you get to write full time right now, bless you. And you also have to rework your budgets to see what other things you have to do to get resources for your household. There's still a budgeting issue there. So just because you don't have to work a day job, you still have a time budget to work out. Okay, spinning the plates. So how many of you guys have seen those people and they're like acrobats and they run around and they spin this plate? Okay, yeah, and that's also like herding ducks. It's all the same thing. Spinning the plates, you're going to put together a work breakdown system, okay? Work breakdown systems are wonderful things because they keep you on track. They keep your team on track, and we're going to talk about defining your teams right here. These are the people that you need. You need an editor, a cover artist, cover designer, unless you're like super talented and you get to do all your own art. I would like to be that person, but I'm not. Distribution manager. These are things that you're going to keep in mind as you move forward, okay? I know we're moving a little bit fast right here, but download the slides. You'll be able to, it'll be a guide for you. Okay, this one right here, stakeholders. Project management turn, right? Stakeholders. Misconceptions. People are like, I don't need stakeholders. I don't have stakeholders. Yes, you do. The contractors that you work with, those are stakeholders. Your number one stakeholder are your readers, right? So think about it that way. There are two different kinds of stakeholders that we're going to talk about really quickly here. A stakeholder is anybody that has a vested interest in the outcome of a project that you're doing. All right, two different kinds of stakeholders. So the main one that you're concentrating on, of course, are your readers, because you want your readers to love you and love your stuff. So you want them to come back and be vested. But the other kind, those are external. Your readers, they're external. Internal stakeholders are your team, right? They're your editors, your contractors, your book designers and stuff like that. Those are internal. External are libraries, like government agencies like schools and stuff like that. Those are external stakeholders. Okay, so getting your ducks a-quacking, let's talk about some communications really quick. There are push communications and there are pull communications when you're looking at project management. A push communication, let me see if I have these here. No. Okay, anyway, so a push communication is an email. It's something that you push out to people, okay? So it can be an email, a newsletter, that kind of thing, a phone call. That's a push notification, okay? It's pushing out. A pull notification is a stagnant place in the universe where people go to pull down information. A website, right? Your work breakdown system, where your teams go and they can see dates and stuff like that. That is actually a really good example of a pull notification place. Fitting it in, your calendar is your new best friend. Okay, you need to set up different calendars. You need to set up personal calendar, a work calendar. You need to set up your writing calendar, and they need to be able to really meld together, and you need to keep those all on your phone, okay, so that your phone can send you notifications. Be sure and set up your notifications so that when you know a book is due or something like that, you have that notification hitting you. And here is where we talk a little bit about taking control of your calendar. It's really the perfect tool for project management because we have cell phones where you keep your calendar on there, and your phone can also send you all kinds of push notifications all the time about everything that's going on. If you have cover art due, if someone needs paid, you just set it all up so that your phone is always talking to you, and your calendar no longer runs you, you run your calendar, right? Use it as a tool. Don't let it control you, but learn it really well, love it, and then live there. Why do I need 18 months? Reviews, getting the word about your book out there. Give yourself 18 months so that you're not going bonkers trying to get your next book out. There's going to be all kinds of things in the processes of getting a book out that you're going to find time to do, right? You're going to be writing the next book. You're going to be pre-promoting this one. You're going to be working with someone to create your book files on a different book. 18 months is not too long. Okay, stacking your calendar, we did talk a little bit about that. This is a Google calendar that has been time blocked. Okay, this is not actually mine, but this image shows somebody who has a day job and they work Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday, right? So day job, pick out your favorite color because that one's obviously going to be a big chunk of your time. But this is a visual of what it looks like when you have stacked your calendar and all of your projects are in a line. Okay, and I also talked to you about Kanban. My favorite Kanban is something called Trello. It's still free, Trello.com. Set it up. You can set up all of your projects in there, and there are little cards, and you can drag them back and forth. It's very visual and kind of gives you a tactile feel. Love Trello. Love it. And this, by the way, is 18 months in a book cycle. That slide right there. Oh, more ducks. Okay. So spreadsheets are my absolute friend. I love spreadsheets. I run a press off of spreadsheets, and I also run a writing conference off of spreadsheets. You can use Google Sheets, and you can email your team members from there. Okay, YouTube is also your friend. So if you're wanting to find a way to integrate your Google Calendar with your Google Sheet, just step over to YouTube, ask it the question, and you will get a 30-second tutorial telling you how to link those babies up. It's super easy. So don't be afraid to Google things. Google is such your friend, and so is YouTube. Okay, so free tools. I love free tools. Trello, we talked about that. So that's your Kanban, right? That's where you're going to keep things for your team to see and stuff like that. Really good way to break down the work. There's Whiteboard. ClickUp is still free. Notion is new, and people love Notion. They still have a free way to use Notion. For your calendar, I use G Suite. Okay, I have everything set up on a G Suite, so that gives me email, it gives me Google Docs, it gives me Sheets, it gives me ways to make slides for presentations. Check out G Suite. You can do that for free as well. Airtable, that's another one that's free, where you can set up your work breakdown system, your WBS. So this slide right here, everything on here is free, okay, to get you started. Those are my tools. I just gave you a rundown on it. Google Sheets, I cannot even tell you how easy it is to do Google Sheets. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead for one time. So this right here is a publishing house with the titles that are coming up in blue. They're linked in a Google Sheet down below in the tabs that you see. You can click on each one of those. It'll take you down to a tab to see exactly what is going on with that book right now in production. Okay, and then so when you click on one of those tabs, you go to this. This is a full workflow for a book, right? Everything from concept, when you get the manuscript, all the way down to whenever you're asking for ARC reviews, then it's in production. So check out that slide. That's for a whole book that's in the middle of being produced. This is like the front page of an overview. Is what this one is, and your team can go there and see when the release date is, who the author is. Some people list their ISBNs on here just for a quick glance. So really adapt this and make it your own. If you email me, I have a sample. It's actually ready to go. I'll email it to you. You can make a copy in Google, and then you can upload your own stuff into there, your own titles, and you can start using that. So it's marie@mariewhitaker.com. You can send me an email and I'll just send that out to you. It's a wonderful tool. It's free to get started, so that you can get started with your stuff without buying something. Don't hurt yourself by running out to buy something, because there are so many free things. Okay, so this slide right here, you'll have this at home, but the first one, this is how you get started with Trello, the first one. The second one is how do I do G Sheets integrations with everything good in the world. That, if you go to that link, you'll get tons of good ideas for G Suites or G Sheets. And then G Suite, this one right here is how you can really integrate all of G Suite in with your life. And then where it says approved, that's not supposed to say approved, it's supposed to say Dropbox. We talked about asset storage, and that's Dropbox. So if you use G Suite, then you'll also have like Drive. There's all kinds of things out there. But anyway, we are so out of time, and I'm so sorry that almost went over. But it was a lot of information, because it's like your whole life, that you're looking at, not just a project. So that's why it's for creatives. So thank you guys so much for coming to my talk.